cars.
I need to take 2
Yeah,
minutes.
you're good. We're switching my car over to a Haltech.
I know Victor Performance.
Yeah,
That's great.
it's my windshield banner.
Haltech.
Yeah, some
Good stuff.
Australian stuff.
Worked a little bit with it. I like it.
Yeah, Garrett said they were going to cut it out of the Mustang, though. He said he wanted to put Holly in it. I don't know if that's just him wanting it or if there was too many hands on the Haltech stuff, made it complicated.
I like some of the features. I don't know it super well, but I like some of the features on it.
There's no, from what I've learned more and more, there's no perfect ECU.
No.
They all have their ups and downs.
Well, I keep seeing people switching, and they're like ditching their Holly and going to a fuel tech or doing this or doing that. It's like, dude, if you can't go fast with that, you're not going fast with the other one. So
yeah, because there's people that go fast with big stuff.
Yeah.
Like the original big stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't keep hopping around. They just keep doing the same thing.
I think some people do it just because, like, either they're going to have somebody tune the car or they're going to switch tuners. They prefer that software. Like, I prefer Holly over everything else. I also don't know everything else like the other guys do. If that's what you're comfortable with, that's what you know. That's why I tell people all the time, is like, well, what should I put on it? It's like, well, depending on who you're going to have tune the car is what you want to run.
Well, the fast guys will be fast no matter what ECU you put in their hands.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the tell of what... I mean, Fuel Tech has done a huge push on having everyone having a Fuel Tech, it seems like.
Yeah, they got great marketing. And it's not a bad product.
No, and they're available.
Yeah.
Which is a huge bonus.
That's
Being available through 2019 to now was...
It's tough being a Holly guy right now, you know? It's just...
What about being a Holly dealer?
I'm not a Holly dealer, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
because I've heard that was tough as well.
I could imagine, yeah. I know just from trying to buy them myself, I was like, you know what? I don't really want to deal with you not having anything in stock. Customer orders something, they're asking you where it's at. You can't tell them. They can't tell you. No thanks.
Yeah, I've heard some people are like... Some dealers are like, I just order from Summit.
Yeah.
It's just easier. And I'm
that's what they're like, oh, if you have an ATEC account, you use that. I'm like, all right, let me look. It was 99 cents is what I saved.
Yeah.
99 cents. I was like, okay. Yeah, I'm not selling nothing. I'll use your stuff, but I'm not selling it.
What do you mean? You could make 99 cents off of selling one.
Yeah, and then I would lose money in taxes.
It's true. Yeah.
That sucks that it's not even worth selling these products sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Doug Cook has his thoughts. We've all heard on these.
They're all valid.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think he's got a Haltech on his car, too.
He just switched to it. Yeah. He's got that LT deal, which is something that you've dabbled in.
Yeah.
Why have they not taken over LSs yet? Why have they not pushed further into
Here's
that?
the thing with LTs, right? So
the new LTs, not...
Yeah, we're talking Gen 5 LT. Yeah. So it's a great motor. In fact, it's really similar to LS, except for direct injection, obviously. And the cylinder head design is different because of the direct injection. So they're really good with the direct injection. They make more power than an LS3, of similar size, we'll say same size motor.
Yeah, like a 6.2.
Similar intake design, as similar as you can get them at least. And obviously one of them's LT and one of them's LS. The DI motor is going to make much more power. It's got a better head on it for flowing, a dry port because it has so much more available volume because there's no fuel in the port. Mm-hmm. So it has potential to make more power until you get to the point where you're going to run out of what those injectors can do, what the pumps that are available, the DI pumps that are available, what they can put out, which is around 1,000.
But for a
depending
race
on
motor,
if you're on gas or
if you put it on port injection,
and you just
you don't
ditch
have a
that.
problem. That's what I did. But as far as like the stock market of cars, having to supplement fuel with either methanol or adding a port injection because you're out of DI.
Yeah, for like a Camaro, like a 6th gen.
The benefit, what he's getting at is the whole benefit to a DI motor is the fact that the port is dry. It flows more CFM through it. There's no fuel flowing through it. So when you get away from being DI.
The problem is, though, when you put fuel through them, that port is horrible with fuel going through it. It does not flow droplets well.
I can't say it's horrible because they still make power.
They still make power. Of course, it's a big port. It'll make power.
It still works well. But
Boost will make up for.
They don't have an aftermarket. They just came out with an aftermarket block for them.
The aftermarket head that's out there, like you look at the one that LME is doing, like look how much smaller the port is than the factory one, and it still makes a ton more power. Yeah, because it actually pulls fuel.
There's only a few places that sell heads, so like the aftermarket support, realistically for LT stuff, isn't as far as the LS stuff is. But yeah, you can. I mean, dude.
Well, I make 3 bolt cams for them. And like you can literally use like a LME front cover.
Yeah.
And it moves the sensor location, so it's technically just an LS cam at that point.
Yeah, it's just reading like an LS.
Yeah.
On if you ditch,
You just use a regular
the port
LS
injection,
3-bolt 4-pole gear.
or you ditch the direct injection, you just go port injection like Moonshine was.
Mm-hmm.
The blocks seem stronger.
Yeah.
They seem like they clamp the cylinder heads better.
They got a bigger stud.
And the aluminum blocks
Yeah.
are pretty much as strong as like an iron block for LS, it looks like.
So the thing with aluminum, and I don't know personally what other people's views on this, from some of the stuff that I read, it's kind of similar. I like the aluminum block because everything can move together. So everything kind of flexes. Like even after when I took the motor out of Moonshine, take it apart to just freshen everything up, everything was twisted as far as like deck surface, heads were twisted and all that stuff. So
Definitely not
everything,
good for ring seal, that's for sure.
You're going to start wearing bearings like they see that with Brett's on the Coyote deal with the stock crankshaft. Things are starting to flex and you start to wear bearings and stuff like that. So it's one of those where you got to kind of go through the same thing they're doing and pick at certain pieces and make them better and perfect them. But yeah, that thing, dude, it was a stock 5.3. It had a rod piston crank in it.
Yeah.
Like one of our camshafts in it.
Yeah. It was a really small camshaft.
A class 80 mil on it, and it was going. I went a 454 at
454.
yeah, at almost 27.
No, 453.
Is it 53 or 54 with a dump valve open the entire way down the track because I forgot that I didn't shut it off on the starting line.
Yeah, so that thing's probably making 1,800 horsepower.
It was I'd say 15.
I would say 14 or 15.
yeah, 1,500 or so. Yeah,
Which
getting
for like
it down.
just like a basic off the shelf like Comstar
Yeah.
stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was it's a Cali's Comstar.
But you did that a
crank.
while ago, and I still don't see as many of them.
But we
which
still
is,
have the fastest.
It just doesn't make sense because
Yeah.
they're readily available.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
just as
Yeah.
expensive as the junkyard LS.
yeah.
No,
well,
they're
dude, I
actually-
was
I think
getting
they're
them cheap
cheaper,
for a
yeah.
stock bottom
Yeah.
end deal.
Yeah,
you
truthfully.
can't get better than a stock bottom end L83. If you're wanting to do a stock bottom end style motor, like the head flow compared to a stock 5.3 head is insanely better. All you gotta do is weld up the DI ports. You put some ring gap in it. Like we went 490s with stock bottom end 5.3 L83 and Chinese 69 mil turbos.
Yeah, and I don't know why that
And that
hasn't
was-
caught on.
We were 2,900 pounds then.
Because I think they just switched to that in what's that red Fox body that always goes for
Nigel and them, yeah.
Nigel.
Yeah,
They
Brutal
just switched
Speed.
to LT.
Yeah.
And they're pushing that now a little bit because
Yeah.
they kind of ran through any LS record
Yeah.
they could.
I don't know what that motor combo is. I think it's a 416 maybe.
I don't
or
know the-
380.
I don't know the
what
details
it
on that
is.
one.
Yeah, those LTs like to be like 416 it seems like, but I kind of like
I don't-
388.
Unless you
don't like-
sleeve it, you're not getting 4125 bore out of it. It's going to be too thin.
Yeah, I
I
feel
don't like
388 for boost.
I don't really think it's necessary to be bigger than 400 inches for most of these turbo applications.
Yeah, 4125 bore is good. Anything more than that, really, you start to lose meat around the cylinder and get cylinder head seal starts to get worse. That's why I like the 5.3 bore because you get so much meat in the sleeve and so much sealing on it.
Yeah, but you can't put a good head on it though.
That's a problem
You
with
don't have enough
that,
bore
the
to do it.
small bore L80 or LT Gen 5 stuff is nobody makes an aftermarket cylinder head for the small bore stuff.
But you can't just make the stock cylinder head just
Well, you wanna-
work. You really
you-
need a different cylinder head on those deals.
It flows really well. You can make a lot of power with it. It comes into play with deck surface.
The problem is flowing droplets, like I said.
That too. It's not meant to flow fuel.
Yeah.
So
they
you
do
can
a really bad job of flowing droplets.
That's so.
But
that's
it's
so
still,
weird.
though,
You've
I
seen
mean-
testing, right? Like they'll take a Gen 5 LT engine, run it with the DI, and they'll take the DI off of it,
Totally
put it
did
on
that
port,
test.
and it loses like 80 horsepower or something crazy like that. And everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, the DI is so good. The DI is so good." It's like, no,
Port is
that
just so
port is
bad.
just so bad at flowing droplets.
But even still, though, you take a stock L83 head versus a stock 5.3
Oh yeah.
LM4 head.
Oh,
it's
that's yeah.
still, even though it's not good at flowing fuel, it
Yeah.
still flows better than that. Of
course.
Yeah, because the ports are huge too.
They're really lazy too. It's a big, really
Yeah, it's
lazy
what are they,
port.
250 cc run or something like
big.
that. And they got a little cant to them. I mean, they're good heads.
Yeah.
That's what I've always seen. Like when
They're
I
very
first
stood
saw
up
them.
though. Like if you look at the line of sight,
Yeah,
it's very
it's
stood
straight.
up. It's straight down. It doesn't have a really good short turn to pull
What's
the fuel.
weird
over.
on them is the exhaust side because it turns.
Yeah, I can't decide why. I can't imagine why they would do that, except for maybe in a certain chassis they needed it to be set back. I don't know.
Have you looked at them? The exhaust port.
They make a
trying to
turn.
picture
They literally
them.
make a
it literally
turn.
feels like that. It hooks.
And a lot of the aftermarket, I think all the aftermarket castings for the
No,
LTs
only
actually.
there's only a couple of them that
Well,
actually
2Js
straighten
kind
it
of do
out.
that. 2J heads do
The
like a
Edelbrock
weird
does.
turn.
The Edelbrock straightens them out.
Yeah, they do like a weird turn up also, almost like it goes like that, the exhaust
Yeah, I
side.
haven't looked it up.
They're
I haven't
this
looked
big.
at much 2J stuff at all. Yeah.
The exhaust ports are so small in that it would be.
They work though.
You just push a lot of air through it, I guess. 80 pounds of boost.
Well, that's what they
You got all the
straightened it
energy
out,
in
but
the
I don't
world
know.
on the exhaust side. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Edelbrock straightened out the port on those, but I don't know if it actually picked up anything. Or not.
So then intake would probably
I don't
be
know for sure.
hugely important on that deal.
Intake manifold?
Intake manifold.
Yeah.
Like something like a tall CID or something like a short runner. Or...
CID just came out with something that
They came out with like a single plane style.
Yeah, I had a high ram on the stock bottom end deal, and then I had a BTR Trinity on this one. I don't know which was better. I know that down low, that changes that I made going to the big single with that manifold and a little bit bigger camshaft killed. The converter that I had in the car worked really well. And when I did that, it killed all low end torque. That thing wanted to be 8,200, 8,300 RPM.
Well, look, here's the thing, right? Like, you're only going to get realistically, you'll get a 2,000 RPM window of a race motor where it's going to make good power.
Yeah.
So, and then you got a small motor. It's hard to get that thing to light off a turbo. So that's where like it's crazy how different a turbo cam could be. Like for a street car, it could just be like really any old, NA camshaft will work most of the time. You look at race car stuff and it's so different than something you'd run in a street car.
Yeah, people look at like a dyno graph on a race car and they look at the whole thing for some reason.
It doesn't matter.
When you're really only like
You let go of the button
here,
and it's never under 6,000 RPM.
Yeah, if you're looking like way down here, like what are you worried about? Like idling back?
You run the car from 68 at the lowest, really. It's it comes out of the converter at 6,000 plus normally, right?
Yeah, it's not a drift car. You don't
I think
use the RPM range.
Yeah, it depends on what you're building and what you're looking at. But yeah, my car flashed 6,500, shift drop of 6 to 800.
Yeah, shifted at 82, it drops back down to 74.
Yeah, like if my car sees anything below 5,800 RPM from starting line to finish line, like it's
something wrong.
Something very wrong.
It's hurt.
Like we leave at like 5,500 and I come through at like 6,000, 7,000. It should be higher, but
yeah, it's two totally different worlds too. Building a street style deal versus I'm going racing versus I'm going to drive this on the street.
Well, even like with you dealing with like a mud truck or like a airboat, the power bands of those two are so different as well.
Because
and
the
what they
airboat,
need.
depending on what kind of gearbox you have, depends on how much RPM. So if you're 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, whatever, your max prop speed's only going to be 3,000 RPM. So,
and the blade pitch.
Well, the blade pitch, prop speed is where they typically stop you at. You're 3,500 RPM.
The blade pitch will definitely load
That's
down
all
the
they
motor
go to?
differently. It will load the motor differently.
Prop speed.
Okay.
So you have to have a step down. So the gearbox, if it's 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1, you can go 6,000, 6,200 engine RPM to keep the prop speed where you want. And then you also adjust pitch for push and controlling RPM, stuff like that. So that's where when you start to have more horsepower, your pitch on your prop will start to change because you can push more with the power, keeping in the same RPM range.
Yeah, so if you have more power, you can have more pitch to your...
Yeah,
more
I was
torque.
actually talking to JH about it the other day because he's got like a 6-liter or something on his airboat. I forget what it is. But I was like, why don't you just put nitrous on that thing? He's like, well, then it's going to be a turd when I'm not spraying it. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, the prop pitch. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that you got to change the pitch for when you're going to actually hit the nitrous.
Yeah. Need a variable pitch deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a helicopter.
Figure that out, yeah.
Well, helicopters do it.
Yeah, they do that. They call it like auto glide or something.
Yeah, the auto rotate.
Yeah.
Nothing about helicopters.
Yeah, you're not a fan.
Only thing I know about helicopters is I ain't getting in them.
You haven't gotten in one at all?
I don't.
Can't even get this guy to get on a plane.
Yeah, I don't.
let alone
No
a
airplanes, no
helicopter.
helicopters. Barely can make it over the skyway.
Airboats, you're good on that?
I'll get on airboat.
As long as
Depends
it's
on
the
who's
ground.
driving
Get on a
it,
boat,
but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I'm driving it, probably not.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for tuning in to the Bogetti Clips YouTube channel. For the full podcast, check us out on Bogetti Studios YouTube and all your audio platforms. Also, hit that subscribe button to not miss out on any of the new Bogetti clips coming up.